Om Sai Ram. Today I'm going to talk about Sakharam Balwant Dhumal. He was a pleader at Nasik and he first was a devotee of Gajanan Maharaj. He asked Gajanan Maharaj what would happen to him and the other devotees if he took Mahasamadhi. Gajanan Maharaj reassured him and said that he was to go to his brother at Shirdi. That is, the next day of his visit, he came, visited Baba and was really impressed by his divinity. He went back to his room and the next morning, when he went to meet Baba, Baba said, "Oh Bhau, I never slept the whole night." Dhumal asked, "Why so, Baba?" Baba replied, "I was thinking and thinking and thinking about you. God only knows what would happen to you if I do not think about you." The words impressed Dhumal so much that he could not say anything other than his tears. He started sobbing and crying. He was so touched by Baba's words that he became a devotee and stayed at Baba's feet till his death. Baba helped him in various ways, be it in his job, that is in his occupation, or be it in temporal matters. As such, he did not give him too much advice on the spiritual part of it. Dhumal lived in Nasik and there was an epidemic of plague. He would communicate to Baba by writing letters to Shama, and Shama would read these letters out to Baba. Once he wrote to Baba telling him that he had found dead rats in his bungalow and asked him whether he should move. Baba's letter came quite quickly and Baba asked him to move to his bungalow, which was on Bazaar Street. Immediately he packed up his belongings and moved there. The very night of his occupation in the bungalow, he found that there were about 4 to 5 dead rats under his bed. Then again he wrote to Baba. The next day, he found that there were about 15 dead rats in the neighborhood. The people of that area were fleeing away from their houses. They were just abandoning their houses and fleeing to a safer place. However, Dhumal stayed on in his bungalow and waited for Baba's reply. He thought that Baba would ask him to move. However, Baba said, "Why should we leave our place and go to another place?" So, very confidently, Dhumal stayed on in that building. Then he found dead rats in the well. Still, he did not move as Baba had asked him to stay there. The only precaution he took was to get water from the Godavari. The doctors and his friends all were very upset with him and asked him to move. They said that he was acting irrationally and following some fakir in Shirdi. However, Dhumal had the utmost faith in Baba and he stayed on in that bungalow and did not face any illnesses. Not plague, not any other illness. He was just fine. Dhumal's wife, who was also a lawyer, passed away about 4 or 5 years prior to his first visit to Shirdi. He would do the Shraddh in Nasik. Once when he came to Shirdi, Baba asked him to do the Masik Shraddh at Shirdi and assured him that he would give his wife Sadgati. So he went up to Shirdi on the Tithi and did the Shraddh there. The only thing that Baba asked was to give him 15 rupees dakshina. Dhumal says, I am certain that Baba has given my wife Sadgati. Baba also helped him in his occupation. Once a case came up in which 3 brothers were convicted. It was stated that they had injured a person and there was a broken limb, and he was admitted into hospital for 20 days. Dhumal got this case and he went up to the judge. The judge asked him about it and read the case and said, oh, this seems to be a short case. That is, Dhumal would not win it. However, Dhumal thought of Baba and immediately said, I will fight this case, and I would like to state that they had brought grievous harm to the victim and his leg was fractured. However, this was the diagnosis given by a person who was a quack. He was not a medical practitioner, and also that he was admitted for 20 days. So the judge said, that seems to be strong. Then Dhumal said, why 20 days? One can admit a person in a hospital for 30 days. It was a private nursing home and was not a government hospital. So Dhumal won the case. Another case that came up was of Raghuji, who was a resident of Shirdi, and 5 other people. In the case, it was stated that they had molested a Marwadi lady, and they had 6 witnesses. Here again, the judge said, this seems to be a shortcut case. However, Dhumal thought of Baba again and beseeched him for help. And then he said that in a fraction-ridden village like Shirdi, why 3 or why 6 witnesses? You can have 60 witnesses who will vouch for it. So then the judge said to him, is your Sai Baba a Hindu or a Muslim? So Dhumal said, he is way above both of them. Then he said, what does he teach? Dhumal replied, for that you will have to go to Shirdi. Then the judge said, can I go to Shirdi? He said, of course, you may certainly go to Shirdi. At once, Dhumal realized that Baba was acting upon the mind and gripping the mind of the judge while he was presenting the case. Thus, without taking the papers from the lower court or even reading through them, he acquitted the people, Raghuji and the others that were incriminated in the case. He asked Dhumal, tell me what the series of events were. And Dhumal practically dictated to him the verdict. And then, without any sureties, Dhumal and the people accused came back to Shirdi and they were scot-free. This case was brought by Tatya to Sai Baba. Baba told Tatya to take it to Dhumal. At that time, Dhumal said, why are you giving me this case? There are so many senior people in Ahmednagar. Why don't you ask them to fight the case? Then Tatya said, Baba asked me to come to you, so I have come. And there ended the matter. And thus, Baba gripped the mind of the judge and the accused were acquitted. Baba helped Dhumal even after his Mahasamadhi. Once he was nominated the president of Nasik district. At that time, he had to sign a whole lot of papers, about 1,000 of them. One day, a friend of his turned up and he was unable to do it. The next day, he called for the peon and asked him to bring the papers of the previous day. The peon asked him, why so? Then Dhumal said, I have to put the signatures on those papers, and there are about 1,000 papers to be signed. The peon looked at him in astonishment and he said, all the papers have been signed. So, nonetheless, Dhumal asked for the papers and he found that his signatures were on each and every paper. At that time, he says, nobody could have signed them except Baba. Bhutte and Dhumal were very great friends, and Bhutte wanted Dhumal to go to the United Kingdoms and study at Bar. So he went to Baba and asked Baba to give him permission, and he said that he would look after Dhumal's family when he was absent. Then Baba said no, and the way he said it is rather humorous. He said his ilayat, that is natural aptitude, and the ilayat, that is the will of heaven, is in this country and not bilayat. So that was a very humorous thing that Baba said to him. And of course, Dhumal did not go to the United Kingdoms, but continued having a flourishing practice at Nasik. Once Dhumal was walking by the Dwarka Mai and he was carrying a photograph of a portrait of Baba that was given to him by Radha Krishna Mai. It was the portrait of Baba standing. And when he was passing by, Baba called him and asked him, what is that you got in your hand? Then Dhumal said, this is you. Then Baba said, give it to me. And then Dhumal gave the portrait in Baba's hand. Baba looked at it and turned it around and then handed it over to Dhumal and said, Chapun Teva, keep it nicely, pray to it, worship it. This was exactly what Dhumal wanted, and he yearned for Baba to give him a portrait or a photograph of his after sanctifying it with his touch. When we went to the house in Nasik, we saw this photograph. It is a beautiful photograph that was given by Radha Krishna Mai to him. In this photograph, Baba has worn the kafni that is on the portrait is a satin kafni. It is most probably attached to it, but the portrait is a very beautiful portrait and it is kept in their prayer room. Also, there are 69 coins that Baba gave to Dhumal at different times of his life, which he preserved. For Baba told him to keep them and not to spend them. So Dhumal kept them as a lucky mascot in his house. If one goes to his home, one can see these articles in his prayer room. Mention is made about Dhumal in the Sai Satcharita, chapter 12, in which he comes to Shirdi on his way to Nifad as he's got a case there. Baba, however, does not allow him to go for a week. And then he finds that the judge was unable to come because he has pain in the abdomen. Dhumal had a very peaceful life. He was a widower, and at the age of 32, he lost his wife. He had certain ailments for which Baba did not want him to remarry, and Dhumal did not ever get married. He died very peacefully in his home at Nasik in 1928. From the life of Dhumal, one can learn, if one has intense faith in Baba, then one can face life full on. Dhumal had such intense faith that even though rats were dying in his bungalow and in his well, he did not leave his bungalow because Baba had not allowed him to do so. Many times we put chits before Baba and the answer comes out to something that we do not expect. And oftentimes we get angry with Baba for advising us to do that. Or worse still, we go ahead and do whatever we feel like. And thus we have to suffer the consequences of it. When Baba gives you an answer, you follow it, just like Dhumal, or you don't put chits. Just go about doing whatever you have to do. His faith was childlike. If we also put aside our ego and have childlike faith in Baba, he believed every letter that Shama wrote to him, giving the answer that Baba had wanted for his life. And he followed it to the letter. How often we ask Baba questions and the answer comes in the negative and then we get upset. So these are some of the things that I have learned from Dhumal's life. There I end this wonderful story of the intense faith that Dhumal had in Baba and followed every word and letter that Baba spoke or sent through writing from Shama. Om Sai Ram.